This episode is sponsored by Conjure Tea. I know I talk about Conjure Tea before every episode, but they're having a Valentine's Day sale that you do not want to miss. That sale also applies to their Baked by Conjure section, and given the company's founded by a pastry chef, I couldn't more highly recommend adding that to your tea order. My current favorite teas are Lunar and Golden Ticket. Lunar is pretty much a tea and an herbal sleep aid. I'm a notoriously bad sleeper, but I had it before bed last night and it really helped. I also love Golden Ticket, which is a turmeric-based tea that helps with joint stiffness and inflammation. Also, do you say turmeric or turmeric? Tweet us and let me know if I'm missing the mark. In the spirit of Valentine's Day, for a limited time, you can receive 20% off your purchase using promo code STEEP20 on conjuretea.com. That includes all tea and pastries, so you don't want to miss this. That's promo code STEEP20 to get 20% off your purchase for a limited time at conjuretea.com.
So you're going to wrap your cakes in saran wrap, pile them into the freezer. When they are rock hard solid, this feels sexual.
Adrien, stick to the cakes. Okay?
When they are rock hard.
Adrien, I'm in a relationship, okay? So you know, I don't know if we fully talked about this tea, but at the beginning of the episodes, I talked to people about the tea.
Okay.
The tea that you're drinking right now is carrot cake. It's a bird and blend tea. It's a rooibos. So
very fall vibes.
It is fall vibes, right? It is absolutely wonderful. It's a rooibos tea. I think what gives it the fall vibes is it's got caramelized hazelnut in it.
Damn.
I know. For steepers at home, 200 degrees on this, and you can go for like 6 minutes. Really get into this carrot cake. It's delicious.
Oh my gosh, this tea can go for 6 minutes.
You can oversteep this.
I'm a coffee girl. I love a little tea, but I'm like really more on the coffee end of the spectrum.
Thank you for joining us in Tea Land.
Of course. I love Tea Land. It's very cozy, very hugga.
Oh my gosh, it's like that Dutch thing about...
It's like it means like coziness, warmth. Hugga is like very fall vibes, candles, blankets. You know, IKEA try, even though that's like the shitty version of it.
Sure.
They're going for hugga.
So that's the opposite of chuggy.
Yes, okay. Exactly. Hugga's like warm, inviting. Maybe I think a little waspy when I think of hugga.
Which is
not very Jewish.
Someone asked me the other day if I was waspy, and I'm like, considering I'm Jewish, I don't think I can be waspy.
No, but you can like do waspy things, I guess, which would be like golf, like wear a tennis skirt. I mean, not you.
No, I do wear tennis skirts. That's fine. Yeah, I love a good skirt.
I have a funny thing to say. So I'm newly single, and
Mazel tov.
Thank you so much. I just went to a wedding in Martha's Vineyard, and I was on my flight. I was like thinking about like, I wonder if there's going to be any single guys, and I was like, it should be a rule that the bride gives the single girls a list of names of single people attending.
We used to do that when I was single.
Oh, really?
100%. I'll give you a really good example. I'll give you 2 different weddings. When I went to my buddy Baum's wedding, about 2 weeks before, I texted him on a group thread with the other guys that were single and said, what's the scoop on the wedding? And he didn't need any clarification.
Honestly, you know, they know, everyone should know. Yeah.
Meanwhile, when I was going to John's wedding, before I even asked, I was his best man. And John goes, listen, there's so many things I would want to do for you as my best man, but I hate to deliver the news that there's not a single woman at my wedding.
Oof. So why go?
Well, I was the best man. I didn't have a choice.
That's true. Also, I've never, ever had a wedding romance. Never had a wedding hookup. Never met a guy at a wedding. A part of me feels like it's from the movies. Excuse me, you have.
What? I was looking at the ceiling. The ceiling is nice in this room.
Maybe I don't have wedding charm. Maybe I'm just, you know.
Here's the thing. I am not an expert at anything. I want to be clear. Anyone who's listening at home, I don't know anything. I'm not an expert.
Okay.
I think there are 2 kinds of men.
Okay.
I think there are across the room guys and there are conversation guys. I am very comfortable with the idea that I am a conversation guy.
Yes.
No girl's looking at me across the room and going, who's that Jew?
Yes.
Like one's...
I'm looking for an across the room guy.
No doubt. No doubt.
I typically like someone in the band at a wedding.
No doubt. As we all do.
Yeah.
The other thing is I'm not the best, but I happen to be a pretty decent dancer.
Okay.
So knowing my strengths, I play to my strengths at the wedding. Right.
Right.
I will go out. I will dance. I will see kind of who's paying attention. I will like start pulling those people onto the dance floor with me. And then once like I've kind of established something, then it's the Hail Mary.
Right.
Then the Hail Mary comes into play, which is you just go up, skip the pleasantries.
Yeah.
Say what you're about.
Yeah. Say what's up. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know, you don't have to be this blunt, but you could be like, hey, so were we going to make out now or did you want to have a few more drinks? Like you just got to.
I'm already laughing. I'm so charmed.
You got to be bold. That's the thing. Because here's what's interesting.
I'm going to say that to someone.
I am telling you it'll work. I am telling you it'll work.
Okay. I'm going to do it.
Because the interesting part about that is that number one, you're pulling away all the doubt and all the confusion about signal sending.
Right.
And it's less painful of a rejection if they just go, no, you go, cool, I didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
I said what I was about. They weren't interested. And you know what? Power to them.
Right.
You're not everyone's cup of tea.
The quicker you know.
No pun intended.
Or very much pun intended.
All the puns intended. Yeah. And by the way,
you're giving me the tea on wedding.
Here's the other thing. Here's the other crazy thing. This is nuts. And people think this is weird about me. Obviously, I'm in a relationship now and like, I don't do this. But when I was single, my big play in Los Angeles, biggest play, I would ask women out in the daytime.
Like ask them to hang out during the daytime or during the daytime you meet them and ask them out.
I literally was literally at a coffee bean, saw a cute girl, went up, struck up conversation. We talked for 5 minutes. I said, hey, I have to run, but I would love to maybe go on a walk, grab some ice cream sometime with you. How would you feel about that? And she was like, that'd be nice. And I was like, cool. I was like, let's exchange numbers.
Wow.
Because the thing is, during the daytime, you're not worrying about how drunk is this person?
Yeah.
Are they going to remember me?
Right.
Is this weird? What
trying to do?
What are they at this bar for?
What are their plans for the night?
Sure.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about any of that. Mm-hmm. I did this multiple times and it always worked.
Oh my gosh.
Because that's the thing is you pull out a lot of this weird ambiguity.
Right. You're just getting to the heart of it and it kind of takes the like embarrassment out of the whole situation. And it can make you laugh at it.
And people have said no thank you.
Yeah.
The funniest thing is one woman said no thank you and I go, honestly, probably the right call. Like,
I mean, great. Yeah. And she still probably felt good for being asked out.
100%.
Yeah.
How nice is that?
Win-win.
You make someone's day.
Yeah, I love it.
Do you not ever do that? You probably don't ask guys out at all.
No, I don't. But I'm very, I love the apps. So like I have no fear on the apps.
I don't care for
like,
the apps.
A lot of people don't care, but all of a sudden I'm like this witty, funny, like I know how to like go after what I want on an app, but then in person, in LA, first of all, I'm not out. I met someone recently in Austin, a guy like in real life.
I met Jess in Austin.
And, there you go. I mean, it was just such a joy. And we danced and it was at a honky tonk.
I don't even know what that is.
Like a honky tonk's like an old school cowboy bar. You know what I mean?
Yes.
They were doing line dancing. I was taking a line dancing class with my girlfriends.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, and he was with a bachelor party and I was like dancing and feeling good. It was like one of the first few weeks I was single and he like came out onto the dance floor and just like joined me. And then we went and grabbed a drink and he was from New York City and worked in finance and I was like, I'm getting married tomorrow. So
was there a smooch?
There was not a smooch, but I thought I was going to see him in New York and he fucking ghosted me. So end of story.
Oh!
But I still really look fondly like back on that moment. And because it was a true life, like meet cute and I'm okay
100%. The other thing I will say, and this is disagreed by some, I also really try not to kiss on the first date.
Oh, I always kiss on the first date. It's like how I know I'm in. I avoid kissing someone if I don't feel like an attraction, which means I already shouldn't be going on a second date with them. Mm-hmm. Does that make any sense?
100%.
And then by the time I'm on the second date with them, I'm like still thinking like, could I picture myself kissing them? I'm like, this is going nowhere fast. I should just like, get the check. I almost like I have to kiss them in order to know like I want to kiss them. Otherwise I like hold out and feel anxiety about kissing them and then we're already too far gone.
What I will often, well, I don't do this anymore, obviously, but what I sometimes would do back in the day, I would experiment with different things, but sometimes at the beginning of the date, I would say, I just want you to know, I'm not going to try and kiss you tonight. If that's something you want to do, you're welcome to do that, but I'm not going to try and do that. So I don't want you to feel any pressure as the date goes.
That's nice. I like that. It makes them be like, but I kind of want you to.
100%.
Ugh. You've got the moves, Josh.
You know what's funny? I have no one to use them on.
I love this. I mean, you need a separate podcast for dating advice.
Oh my gosh. You know what I did with Jess when we had our first date in Portland, when I saw her walk off the plane, I was like, oh my God, she's just as hot as she was in my memory. Yes. And
oh, I love that moment.
And then we're walking and we're like talking and joking or whatever. And I said, man, when the time is right, I'm going to kiss you. And I think we're both going to just feel sparks. But here's the thing about dating apps for you. Mm-hmm. And this gets to a lot of, I mean, I love so many things about you, but this is the thing about you is you have done enough things that on an app, you can find a lane with someone. So it's like, oh, this person's in entertainment. Oh, well, I've produced a lot of really cool things. Or this person's way out of entertainment. You could go, oh, I'm a published photographer. And they're like, oh, and you could go, oh, you don't like that? But you see they're a foodie. Oh, do you know I'm an incredible baker? You have lanes.
Right. The cake. Oh, so what for listeners? I have a little side hustle cake business.
Sweet AF.
It's called Sweet AF, and I will
believe
say
the Instagram is I am Sweet AF.
Yes, I am Sweet AF, and the cakes are in my profiles, my dating profile. So like not pictures of the cake, but pictures of me with a cake, so people get the idea. Oh, she's a baker. Oh, so it really strikes up conversation pretty easily. Everyone loves food, and if you don't love food, you shouldn't be talking to me. So well,
I also just want to be clear for the people listening because I don't think everyone knows you. These are not just like, oh, I like grabbed a box of cake mix and I made like, these are like really, they're elaborate, they're beautiful, incredibly delicious. And that's the other thing that I think about your baking, not to like rain compliments on you, but I think that a lot of times the prettier a cake gets, the worse it tastes.
Yeah.
But yours are amazing.
Well, I mean, that's what matters. I'm a foodie first and foremost. The design, I like design and I like making cakes look beautiful. But if it doesn't taste good, first of all, so many people who are my friends and in my circle, also in the entertainment business in which I work, they order cakes from me. I'm going to see them or I'm going to have a Zoom call with them in the morning. I can't be giving them some shitty cake.
So the only reason that you make good cakes is for that. Otherwise, you'd want
I have to see these people face to face again. Otherwise, I mean, that's not just that. I also like to eat my own cake. I freeze. So when you're like stacking up a cake, you want to like kind of shave off the top dome to make the cake flat.
Okay.
So
I've seen you with your cake level.
I call them scraps, okay? I mean, that's what most people would say. They're cake scraps because like they're not going to go in the cake, but you don't want to throw them away.
Yeah.
So I have freezer bags of cake scraps, chocolate, funfetti, lemon poppy seed. And whenever I'm, need a little nosh, I've got my frozen cake scraps.
Talk to me about that lemon poppy seed.
So I'm eating my own cake, okay? Like,
Didn't you at one point, I don't know if you still do, but didn't you at one point have the perfect roommate? It was this girl who
I do still, yes.
You do. She was the perfect roommate because like she's great, super nice from what I understood, but she's also like, if you're like, oh, I have too many cake scraps in the freezer, you're like, hey, can you help me out? Yes. And she'll just like go through a bag. She'll
go through a bag in like a day. It's actually kind of very indulgent.
But also
she gives no fucks.
Right. But also isn't she like, doesn't it not show? Like, isn't she still
No, she's just like absolutely fit. And it's nice because I'm trying to move out the food out of my house. There's so much.
Yeah. You're like, I've got too many scraps.
Too many scraps.
What is her name if you're allowed to say?
Her name's Yolanda.
Yolanda.
Yeah.
So if you're like, oh, I've got too many scraps. Yolanda, I need you in here. I've got 2 bags. They need to go out stat.
And I'll tell you, she literally goes, yes.
Here's why I need her in my life. I am a golden retriever. So if it's in front of me, I'll eat it.
Right.
So I can't pick it a bag.
Right.
Like I'll eat the whole bag.
Yeah.
I have no self-control.
Yeah.
There was a time, this is a really embarrassing story. Jess and I went to dinner. I was very full. We then go to this cocktail bar called Old Lightning. It's in Venice.
Okay.
And they serve you these like cute little, like they put out a little thing of like, kind of like, it's not even mixed nuts. It's like those kind of like mixed nuts that also have like freeze-dried corn in it. Like it's a weird thing. And they put it out and I start nibbling on it and Jess goes, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I go, I don't know. She goes, you said you were so full, it was painful. And I said, yeah. And she goes, stop that. And just reaches and takes them away.
That sounds good. I got to know what everything tastes like. That's the bottom line.
But I need to finish. I think there are like some deep-seated psychological issues I have for that. But like, this is not a therapy session.
Always worth looking into. I love a therapy session.
Well, I think that can lead us into our first segment. Are you ready for your first segment?
I'm ready.
It's called the Newly Friend Game.
Okay.
So here's how it works. I'm going to ask you a question. Mm-hmm. Okay. You're not going to answer. We're both going to write down what we think your answer would be.
Okay.
And then we're going to flip our boards and see if we got it right. And then I'm going to ask a question of myself and we'll do the same thing.
Okay.
Was that cool?
I'm ready.
Okay. Here we go. We haven't gotten to a lot of your accomplishments yet. So people may not understand why I'm asking this.
Okay.
But a lot of people don't know this, but you worked with The Lonely Island for a long time and you produced an absolutely incredible movie, Popstar. Lonely Island was on SNL at one point.
Yes.
So other than
kind of a rap comedy group.
Yes. If people know Andy Samberg, Guillermo Taccone, all the people, Akiva, I wouldn't want to leave them out.
Yeah.
Other than those three, and don't say it out loud, write it down. Other than those three, who is your favorite SNL cast member of all time? Other than that, it can't be someone that you've worked with or you know.
Okay. What if it's like a basic answer?
It can be. Write it down.
Okay.
Don't tell me.
Right.
Don't tell me. Okay. You're going to flip the board on 3.
Okay, I didn't circle one, but I have
It's your
first
top
choice and second choice.
Top
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Oh, it's Will Ferrell.
Oh my God.
It's Will Ferrell.
It is Will Ferrell.
It is.
I mean, he is, come on. It's Will Ferrell.
So well, listen, I love Will.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Yeah.
I actually love him in dramatic roles, arguably more
He
than
was
I
also
even.
my second boss.
You
Because
you worked at Funny or Die.
After The Lonely Island, I worked at Funny or Die for 3.5 years, and he owns Funny or Die.
Did you work closely with him?
No, I think I've seen. He did Christmas parties. He came in and out. But no, if anything, I talked to his agents more than I talked to him.
I want to say your second choice, which I love.
Okay.
I loved your second choice is Kristen Wiig.
Yes, Target Lurdy.
I chose yours. I thought your second choice was going to be one of my favorites of all time, which is Tina Fey.
I mean,
Love Tina Fey.
classic.
I would argue that as far as writers go, not just SNL, but generally speaking, Tina Fey is probably one of my favorites.
Oh, I mean, how can you
period.
not? How can you not?
Now, the favorite cast members that I chose, I did slash.
Okay.
I said Phil Hartman
Okay.
/ Tim Meadows.
Oh, Tim Meadows.
I have a
I
huge
love Tim Meadows.
I have a huge thing for people who can play. I think that playing the straight man is deceivingly difficult. I end up in that position a lot. I think it's a very hard thing to do.
Yes.
Some of the best straight men of SNL of all time are people like a Phil, like kind of utility players, like a Phil Hartman, like a Tim Meadows, like Jason Sudeikis was an incredible one. But you have all those people that play the straight man. And I think that Phil Hartman, as far as he was able to play the straight man and the silly one.
Yeah, that's very true.
I admire him. One time, there's a friend of mine. I don't know if you ever met her. Her name is Britt Belsheim.
No.
One time, Britt said to me, off the cuff, you know what I was thinking when I was watching you perform last night? I said, yeah. She goes, there's something about you. I can't pin it down that kind of like reminds me of Phil Hartman. And I died.
Yeah.
I died.
That's
I was
the
like,
ultimate compliment.
I was like, what? Okay. Yeah, I was like dying because the thing I've gotten a lot is Seth Meyers, but I'd never gotten Phil. Yeah, I got
that's good. Just kind of a look vibe situation.
It's like a
Jewy,
Jewy,
it's like a Jewy thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're a Jew too. You're like Seth Meyers.
Yeah, I think
It's like when people tell me I look like Barbara Streisand.
Do you get that a lot?
I get Barbara Streisand and I get Sarah Jessica Parker, who's not Jewish. But I also think that Sarah Jessica Parker is just a tiny girl with like light brown hair. And
I also think that the Jewish community, I don't want to speak for all of us, widely accept Sarah Jessica Parker as one of our own.
She's also a Broderick, who I believe is a Jew.
Is Matthew Broderick a Jew?
I actually don't know and really want to know. I love how I'm like, she's a Broderick. That's a Jew.
I love you. You sound like my mother. She's a Broderick.
Yeah, Matthew.
You talking about Sarah?
Matthew.
Sarah Jessica? She's a Broderick. She's fine. She's a Broderick. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready for the next one.
This is.
Well, first of all, we did well on that.
I mean, we crushed.
Yeah.
We're 1 for 1 right now.
Okay, great.
Can we go 2 for 2?
We'll see.
The question for me, what is my favorite? No, yeah, you know the answer to that.
Okay.
For the listeners, I was just mouthed ice cream, and the answer is clearly Salt and Straw. What is my favorite 90s / early 2000s teen movie? Okay, you ready to flip your board?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay. So my number 1 was 10 Things I Hate About You. Adrien guessed Superbad.
Which I was like, oh, is that early 2000s or not? I think it is actually.
I think it is. And the second one we both had was She's All That.
You know what's really funny is She's All That was what I first came to mind. And I was
I almost put that and then I put 10 Things I Hate About You
we're
instead.
so close.
I know. You know what though?
This is where you
I'm
got
going
to
to give us
trust
1.5
your
for 2.
gut. Trust your gut.
You got to trust your gut.
Yeah.
I'm 1.5 for 2.
1.5 for 2.
I think that's pretty good. Personally.
I feel like we're on the level.
We are 100%. I do like Superbad. What's interesting is though, if we're in that realm of movies, if we're thinking about Superbad, I call those the Apatows. And if we're in that mode, my favorite undebatably is Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
Oh, I love that movie. I just recently watched it on the plane.
When you started working with The Lonely Island way back when.
Yes.
Well, actually, I guess before I get into that question, do you want to tell people how that all went down? You can do a short version, long version, whatever you want.
I look like a child. Let's just tell the listeners. And when I was like a 21-year-old actress moving to LA, I played kids on television and I thought it was a huge bummer. I was just like surrounded by young people that were like, in their teens. And I was like trying to kind of like be a post-college like adult. And it just wasn't, I was not vibing. And I was very stressed out about auditioning. But as you know, we all go to school for something and promise ourselves like, I'm going to do this. This will be the reason all that, money was spent in college. And then I was just very mad at myself for not being an actor. But eventually after a little bit of therapy, I decided I'm going to quit. If it's meant to be, it'll come back to me.
Sure.
And she was like, pick a hobby, any hobby, because I didn't have any other hobbies. I was like full-time actor since I was in high school. So I picked cooking school. So I went to cooking school. And I also took photography classes. I went to cooking school, and when I was in cooking school, I was looking for a cooking job, and someone I knew was like, oh, there's a kitchen at this management company that manages actors and comedians and writers called Mosaic, and they are looking for someone to work in their kitchen. So I took this kitchen job, very little cooking involved. I mean, I was like buying cereals, filling up the cereal thing. Like I made like vats of oatmeal in the morning. I mean, I did like lunch spreads every day, which is incredible. They feed their offices lunch.
You're also famous for your overnight oats, I believe.
I do a lovely overnight oats.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and I did a little spread every day. You
are the most Jewish, but like like you throw it in, you dabble.
I throw it in. So I did a little spread every day, and I was there for 3 years.
Wow.
Because I started to love all the people there.
Sure.
And I had never been around hilarious, funny people. I mean, the people.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. And it was in the same building as Soho House. So, Jason Mantzoukas would come up for like a sandwich and then go up to Soho House because he didn't have to pay for a sandwich from me.
Oh,
so,
wow.
And I got to meet all these wonderful.
Wish I were repped there, and that's how I get a free sandwich.
It's a great, great place to be repped by. So I didn't know that, but I worked there in the kitchen and slowly but surely was surrounded by these incredible people and decided, okay, I need to focus on finding something in this world. I don't know what it is. I didn't even know what producing was. I didn't know what I wanted. And so I just told everybody, I want to work for a funny person. I want to work for one of your clients. I'll either be a personal assistant or a PA. And I told them this for years. And I, at some point, started to feel like I'm going to stop telling everybody. They must get the idea and no one's ever going to call me. And then, of course, by, a twist of fate, the Lonely Island moved to LA and were represented by this company. And they were looking for a full-time PA that kind of did everything, a jack of all trades. I went in for it and I met them and, it was very casual. They were like playing video games and interviewing me at the same time.
That sounds like the one meeting I took there.
Yeah. And then they hired me as their PA and we, from that moment on, everything kind of changed. They took me in and taught me, they make a lot of their own stuff. So they're like, we're going to make a short. Like, can you go, rent a camera? Can you go buy the costumes? We're going to make this room look like this. And I started doing it. And then I started going everywhere with them and shooting stuff and meeting their friends. And while they were recording a comedy album, they had me help out. And it was just a very simpatico situation. So they gave me my first shot in Hollywood. We stopped working together for a little bit because no one was sure what was going on. Like Andy didn't have Brooklyn Nine-Nine yet. They were still getting settled in LA. And about a year and a half later, they remembered our time together and called me in to be their full-time assistant for their new production company, which had an overall deal at the time at Fox. So I started as their executive assistant, but I was the first hire for the company and for about 3 months worked by myself. So I was reading all the incoming dev. I was reading all the scripts. I was meeting all the, agents just because, they needed someone to take the load before they hired their big exec, which was Billy Rosenberg, who really taught me everything about development. And then I became a development executive.
So if you look back on the experience there and you think about the 2 to 3 projects that you feel were most impactful for you.
Yeah.
Not most impactful in the world. Most impactful for you. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing Popstar is in that list.
I would say there's 3.
Okay, hit me.
The first pitch I ever heard where I was like, I have to do this. I want to do this. I need to be a part of this was Pen 15.
You were in that pitch?
Yes, I was in that pitch. I was in that room. I was a part of making the pilot. So the pilot presentation we made predated so much of what exists now.
Yeah.
But we had money to make pilot presentations and we decided we met Anna and Maya and they gave us this incredible pitch about 8th grade and all all the things we remember about going to bar and bat mitzvahs in the yearbook. And they showed these incredible pictures. And I just we knew we had to do it. And I think at the time it was, 3 of us in a room, the 3 people that worked at the company. And we decided we were going to do it. So that was from that moment and then to now is kind of a really special thing to see, to see billboards of Pen 15. And I'm like, oh my God, I was in that room, when the moment we heard it. So,
oh my gosh, that's incredible. I didn't know that.
I made Anna's baby shower cake. They're still in my life.
So
they're wonderful people. And it was a really good experience.
And a hit show.
And a hit show.
Yeah.
And then Popstar was huge. I mean, I was assisting at the time, and The Lonely Island had decided they were going to write Popstar with Judd Apatow, or for Judd Apatow as producer. And they were like, you can either come with us or you can stay at the production company and focus on the production company. They had always been my North Star. Wherever I went and they were standing, good things happened. I learned something. So I came on as director's assistant and stepped away from the company a little bit to assist Akiva as director and work out of Judd Apatow's office.
Sure.
So I was there for about a year doing that. You know, I was there while they wrote it. I was there while they, you know, cast it, shot it, every moment of post. And I mean, it was an unforgettable experience that taught me I want to be a producer. Like I didn't know what that was until I was a part of a huge production like that. And it was life-changing. And they made me a producer on the movie halfway through because I had no choice but to be extremely involved. But it was like the best lessons I could have ever learned were from being thrown into something. I didn't go to school for production.
Yeah.
And that was school. I mean, that was school. So even, you know, when I'm shooting something now or prepping something or casting something, Popstar was like by far it was college for me. You know?
I remember seeing a test screening that you invited me to of that. And I was like, oh, you know, like I like this and like I like that, and this seemed a little off to me. And you go, we're cutting it.
Yeah.
And I was like, because of me? You go, no, I knew we were cutting that.
Yeah.
She's like, they didn't know we were cutting.
I was there, you know, and also very lucky. You know, I always think of the Lonely Island guys as like my angels because not everybody takes their assistant everywhere. I was in the car with them. I literally drove with them, dropped my car off in the morning, and drove with them in an SUV every day to set. I was really by their side, and because of that, I learned so much that I will never. That most people never experience because they let me be in the room. And it really taught me that moving forward, when I have people take people under my wing, I lose nothing by having someone hear my conversations, hear, you know, what we're doing and be able to help me. There's only something to gain. And there's always kind of been this vibe of like, you haven't made it yet. You can't enter this really intense conversation we're having that I see that I just want nothing to do with, because the reason I know so much and have learned so much and have been able to excel so quickly is because I was just always in the room, you know?
That's incredible.
Yeah, I feel very lucky.
That's amazing. What was the third one?
Talk about a show that no one really saw was Alone Together. It was on Freeform. I would say it was a show where I didn't have the best time, but I
remember the show
was
now.
put on this show as a producer by myself for the pilot. So it was my first show on my own and it went very smoothly, but the actors and I weren't having the best time, but I also got to produce something by myself. And so I look back on that, even some of the shows, of course, that you have, like, you're like, oh my God, that was drama. There's such learning experiences. I also was grateful to have bosses that threw me into the ring and said, Adrien, you can handle a pilot on your own. You've got this. And they let me. And sometimes it was the worst of times. Sometimes it was the best of times. But I got to say I produced that pilot by myself.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So I will always cherish that. And I look back at that as something that's mine, because a lot of times in the business, like, you throw your hand in something, you give a note here and there, and you feel like, okay, I was a part of it. But those 3 shows were really the essential beginning of my career, and then kind of gave me the confidence, which is super important, in order to be like, I can do this. I've got this. And so that was when I decided I wanted to, like, package a show by myself. And that's when I developed Bust Down with Chris Redd and Jack Knight, Langston Kerman, and Sam Jay, because I felt like when I met them, I was like, these 4 people need a show. And maybe nobody believes me right now. They hadn't, found success yet. But I felt the confidence, and I had the chutzpah, since we're on a Jewish gig.
Oh my Lord.
To go to my bosses and say, I really believe in this. And I wouldn't have even known what to do with thinking these 4 people are funny. What do I do with them? A few years prior. So a lot of growth happened from just being in the room.
It's so funny when you're like, they gave me the confidence to know I could do it. And while you're saying that, in my mind, I go, I don't have that confidence about anything.
No, you do.
No.
Come on, your whole job is schmoozing. Everything about you is a schmoozer.
Love a good schmooze.
Talk about the dating advice. I can't do that.
I'm giving dating advice to you and listeners I'll never meet.
You have a podcast. I don't. That's confident.
Listen, my steepers are with me. I want to talk about your photography, because I really want to talk about. I'm trying to remember what the name of the original project was, because you switched the name.
Words with Friends.
It was.
Yeah.
Yes. and you switched it to My Naked Truth, but Words with Friends was the original. Did Words with Friends, in terms of the timing, and we'll touch on this in a second, listeners, so you can understand what I'm talking about, timing-wise, was this before or after? I think it started before Lonely Island and then picked up again while you were at Funny or Die? Is that right? So talk about a little bit about that.
So I had a blog while I was working in the kitchen at Mosaic. I was also taking photography classes, and I love taking pictures of people. And
you take so many classes. You're the most educated individual I've ever met.
Listen, it all happened after college because I had only learned one thing. And all of a sudden the world was my oyster when I realized like we can learn other things. We can do other things. You don't have to be one thing.
Yeah.
Which is kind of my whole shtick. But I was obsessed with quotes even in college, like when Facebook came out, which really ages me.
Yeah, I was going to say, boy. I remember when Facebook first came out, it was called
and it
The
says,
Facebook.
Like, didn't it start with like, I am, or like there was a prompt at the top. But anyways, I would, yes, but I would always ignore that and put in like a quote from like Walt Whitman or like I was always like heartbroken in college. I loved the same boy for a really long time. So there's always like quotes that maybe he'd see or I'd live to, whatever. Then I started collecting quotes and I kind of became obsessed with them. So when I was doing the photography classes, I wanted to start taking pictures of people. And I thought, how can I combine quotes and people? And so one night I had some girlfriends over and we were all sharing quotes and I was like, oh my gosh, well now it doesn't seem innovative at all because we've seen a lot of pictures where people have writing on them. So at the time, let's say I was the first one to do it because we have decided that.
No, I decided it.
I was like, I'm going to write your quote that you chose that is meaningful to you for this moment in your life on you. So in 20 years, you can look back and go like, oh my God, it's funny I chose to say that or I chose to write that and you'll have a photo of it. And I wanted it to look like a Polaroid. So I did that with like my 4 friends and I posted it on Facebook and then people wrote me like, I want to do that. I want to do that with my favorite quote. And so I would say like, okay, whatever, you can come over. So 2 or 3 people came over, we did it. Like the people who did it kind of turned it into what it was. And then people would reach out to me and say, I want to do this. I want to share. I have something I need to say. There were people who came out through it. There were people who made a promise to themselves. Thank God I was in therapy because people were coming to me and being like, I haven't told anybody something. I remember one woman's like, I don't think I'm in love with my husband anymore. I wanted to like commemorate a moment where I make a promise to myself. This is my favorite quote. It also goes back to a wonderful thing about being an actor is learning to listen. So I really kind of became a listener and then I would take a picture. And it turned into so many people spreading the word. And I shot over 250 photos of people. Each session was an hour of talk, an hour of sharing quotes, everyone taking notebooks to my house. And it became this intimate act where I met so many new people. Also, people from my childhood reached out that I hadn't seen since I was a kid. There were just so many things that happened because of this little blog that I had. And then once I started to kind of get into the Lonely Island of it all, I had to kind of choose one or the other. Eventually, I was starting to take a little pictures here and there, but for the most part, I was like, oh, I want to be a producer. This is not time for the blog. So I worked for the Lonely Island. We started the production company. I was with them for 4 more years. And I was starting to feel a little restless, like I was ready for the next thing. I always felt like their little sister at this point, and I was starting to feel like an executive, and I wanted a new job. And I decided I was going to take a little break from working at the company and try to go out there and really get a job on my own. And at the same time as I was contemplating that, a publisher reached out and asked me if I wanted to make a coffee table book of my blog from 4 years ago.
Yeah, they do that. I get that twice a day.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the craziest thing. How things come back around and why we should all just always be putting our shit out into the universe. And so I said, you know what? I would love to turn this into a coffee table book, but I didn't store the photos properly. I don't even know where the fuck they are. And
the publisher,
yes. And the publisher said, well, why don't you do it again? And now I had this whole job experience. I was in a new moment in my life where I felt lost again. And I went back to doing Words with Friends. And I did it in New York City and LA, and I shot 200 people.
That's insane.
And this was only just a few years ago. And the timing of it was insane. And I got to see old friends and meet new people and turn it into a book. The reason why it's not called Words with Friends, as you can imagine.
Yeah, I don't think anyone needs to know.
It's now called My Naked Truth. You can get it at Barnes & Noble.
I was going to say, plug that book, girl. Plug that book.
You can get it at Barnes & Noble. You can get it on Amazon.
Yes.
It's a really, I haven't looked at it in a while. It came out in 2018. And now I just looked at it again, and I'm in a new place in my life, the pandemic. I had some loss. I had some change. And I went back through it, and like every other page is someone actually sharing why they shared what they shared. So it's basically a book of advice from, 150 people. And I just reread it and was like, I needed this. So I feel so lucky that it exists. Maybe not a lot of people bought it, but I've got a book with my name on it.
First of all,
it was very cathartic for me.
I bought it.
Yes,
and I have it. Number 2, this is a very weird story I've always wanted to tell you. And then we're going to move into our second segment. But I do want to tell you this story. My friend, I'm not going to name him because I don't want to put him out. My friend was going through a very particularly hard breakup. Mm-hmm. It was prolonged for reasons I won't get into because I don't want to reveal some identities. But it was a prolonged breakup and it was really not good. He comes out to LA. And I don't remember the reason he was here, but he stayed with me for, I believe, just one night. And what you may not know, I don't know if you ever saw this, I used to have your book on my coffee table. The only reason I don't have it on the coffee table now is because we've been cleaning up a lot of stuff. I know exactly where your book is. It's right there on my bookshelf upstairs. However, it was on my coffee table. We had, I'm going to give you more information than you need. We had a very silly night where we were both I was going through a breakup and he was going through a breakup. We were both very sad. We were drinking arguably too much whiskey, and we're drinking rye and too much. He said, I just want to watch a movie. I said, you pick any movie. I'm going to watch it with you. So I have a list I keep on my phone of about 250 some odd movies that I've always wanted to see that I haven't seen. And I always add to it. He looks at the list. And let me tell you something. There's some joints on there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, I'm sure.
He picks the movie Frozen.
Frozen's a bop.
Yeah, 100%. I go, Frozen? He goes, we are 2 single men going through heartbreak, drinking whiskey. I want to watch Frozen. Yeah. I'm not exaggerating when I say we watched it twice that night.
Oh.
Watched it all the way through twice.
Had you seen it before?
No.
Oh, it's incredible.
It started to replay and we just let it. And we just let it go. You're welcome. No pun intended. You are so 100% intended. You're all welcome. The next morning, I'm pretty hungover. I wake up and I walk out into the living room and he is 3/4 of the way through your book on the couch. And I go, morning, buddy. And he looks up and he goes, what is this? And I go, I was like, my friend Adrien, she's done a bajillion things. In this case, she's a photographer and an author, and she put this book out. And he goes, I needed this.
Oh,
and I
love that.
I was like, please. I was like,
there's some good stuff in there.
Give it a read and, just make sure you don't take it away from me. It is mine.
Yeah.
I was like, but, good luck. But yeah, it was a very big moment. I never told you that, but that was,
I love that. I mean, there's a ton of advice in it. And what I kind of like too, it's like, it's not a book where I write advice. It's a book where like the best of the best write advice. And then the people who really needed that advice share what moved them the most.
Yeah.
So, and then in a weird way, it shows how we're all connected. Even advice that I don't need today also can mean something to me.
100%.
We're not alone in, there are so many people I meet that just feel so alone in what they're going through. And I'm like, I've met so many people, like no one's that unique in what they're going through. We should bond on the fact that being a human is fucking hard. And,
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. And the more we converse about it, the better. But sometimes it's hard, especially in this world where we're like all on social media. We're all not having that many deep conversations anymore, especially like across a table from each other, and asking someone, how are you? How's your day going? I'm the first to maybe sometimes skip that because I'm just like in my shit and trying to get my day, over with and don't want to like get in it with someone who maybe seems sad, but like you don't know how cathartic that can be for you too and how much you can grow from like asking people how they are. So I feel like that was the one big thing I learned from the book. I don't think I'll do more books. It was like a really incredible experience, but I'm on to the next.
Oh, good.
I'm on to the next.
So let me ask you that. That brings us to our second segment. The second segment is called Teach Me Something.
Okay.
It can be anything you want. A lot of people say that I speak more than I know, so I try and bring someone in who can teach me something.
Okay.
It can be 10 seconds. It can be 10 minutes. Preferably not 10 minutes because I don't have an attention span for that.
Okay. So if you're going to make a layer cake.
Oh!
You're going to make a layer cake and you're going to frost it.
Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, you want to frost your layer cakes. The biggest mistake people make is they don't A, do a crumb coat, which I'll teach you about in a second if you don't know what a crumb coat is.
We're going to need education.
And B, freeze their layers before they ice. You got to do it. Okay? So what you're going to want to do.
I just want to tell you this. I've been telling Lucas that for months and he doesn't do it.
So what you're going to want to do when your cakes come out of the oven is you're going to let them get somewhat room temperature, not fully room temperature, because you want a nice steam when you wrap it so it gets moist in the freezer. So you're going to wrap your cakes in saran wrap.
I never knew that's what makes it moist.
Pile them into the freezer. When they are rock hard solid, all of a sudden this feels sexual.
Adrien, stick to the cakes. Okay?
When they are rock hard.
Adrien, I'm in a relationship, okay?
Make your cakes the day before you're going to ice them. You don't want to like do it all in one day. You don't want to ice a warm cake, as we've all seen in British Bake Off.
Have we?
It's not good. Bake Off is a very soothing show to watch for people with anxiety. Highly suggest.
I'm ready.
So you want to freeze your cakes. You want to make them the day before. So when you're going to ice your cake for your friend's birthday, all you're doing is pulling those rock hard cakes out of the freezer.
Cakes never felt so sexual, yeah.
Out of the freezer. You've got your buttercream. You put out your hard cakes. Next piece of advice. Soak them with milk, and with milk that has vanilla in it. You put a little brush into a little cup that has vanilla and milk in it, and run that brush over your cake. Your cake, while it's iced and now sitting, will be also seeped in a little bit of extra moisture. People get dry cakes. This keeps them not
I like dry cakes. Can you do it with an alt milk, or does it have to be a milk?
Yeah, alt milk is fine.
I love oat
it's
milk.
about moisture.
Is that bad? Should I have said that?
No, I was laughing because I said moisture, which makes me think of sex again.
What is, my Lord, we need to send you to a wedding with single guys. Get this out of your system.
I know. I mean, I got to look at my books and see what's coming up.
The next movie she produces is not going to be viewable by a lot of the public.
So then you've got your hard cakes that are moisturized with the
This is the horniest baking advice I've ever gotten. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Cake soak. I've never compared cakes to sex, but I am feeling very warm. Okay, so what you want to do so you don't get crumbs in that icing, which we've all seen when our friends try to make us a birthday cake.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
You do a thin layer of your buttercream. You do you layer your cakes and you do a thin layer around, okay? That thin layer of buttercream is going to grab all of the crumminess. And you can let the crumbs fly with this thin layer of buttercream because it's going to catch it and it'll be like a crummy looking buttercream coat. Then you're going to pop it in the fridge for 20 minutes. And when you take it out, you've got a hard cake that you're now going to ice and there will be no crumbs in your icing.
Here's what's interesting. I am fascinated by everything you just said.
And okay.
And it just showed me I'm just going to order from you.
Because I was just like, why would anyone order a cake after I just told them this key?
Oh, because I don't want to do all that. Here's my thing about you that I think is really interesting. So you're a baker, you're a producer, you're a published photographer. Mm-hmm. You've done all of these things. In my opinion, you can disagree. You've been wildly successful in all three. Is there a recipe for that success or any advice you'd give to listeners who are like even trying one thing that maybe you've picked up on and being in three different realms and succeeding in all of them?
Okay, this is going to be a weird thing to say, but
I don't think so.
I would say like, don't be weird.
Oh.
Don't make people uncomfortable. Make people feel good and happy around you. Don't try too hard. You want to be a chill hang.
Well.
Okay.
We know.
I think that's when I think about how it all started. When I started working for The Lonely Island, I didn't kind of give a shit about them, which made me a chill hang because I wasn't dying to be in the room.
Right.
All of a sudden, they're like, this chicken hang, she doesn't care. Like showing that like, I'm just here to be present and have fun. And I promise you what will come of it is coming. You know what I mean? Because people who are great want to help people who are great. So if you did a great job on their production, they're going to be at the wrap party being like, what's your deal? I want to see you again. This was so much fun. You're the best person to work with. And then when they hire you on their next show and then they're like, let's grab dinner after the shoot today, then you can be like, I'm a writer, I'm an actor, blah, blah, blah. You know, like the ability to hang, the ability to not be too much of a tryhard, but just be a hard worker who doesn't, I think a lot of young people now too, like don't even understand the idea of like working 24/7 and putting in that time. Like we all have all these boundaries, but I do think sometimes like challenge yourself to be like, I am really tired, but I am going to get that extra cup of coffee for someone. Who knows what that will mean? And so we all have to remember like these things mean something, even if you don't even get a thank you, Sometimes like I will talk to assistants who are like, I did this, that, and the other, and they didn't thank me. And I'm like, but this stuff is logged, And even when you work for crappy people, if you give them a good attitude and you don't roll your eyes at them and you do what they ask, that person will still recommend you for the next job. So I just really say like, be a good person. At the end of the day, for all of those things, people want to be around me because I can hang. I'm a chill hang. And comedians like it because I'm a chill hang. And also Lonely Island kind of taught me to be one. But some people you meet and you're like, all you need to know is like, you've got it. We all know, know it inside your heart and bet on yourself. I think that's really hard for us all. It's like, I want you to know how great I am, but I know how great you are just from having a conversation with you about ice cream, Seriously. Sorry if I went on a rant.
No.
But
I will tell you, I don't think we're going to get anything better than that. I think we just jump right into the lightning round. I feel like,
okay.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Okay, great.
That's pretty much the billboard for our podcast, I think. All right, we're in the lightning round. 5 questions. Questions are short. Your answers don't have to be. It's kind of up to you. Question 1, what is a favorite ritual of yours? Mine is making tea.
Mine is making my morning cup of pour over.
Ooh, lovely.
Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Do you have a gooseneck kettle?
Oh, of course I do, honey.
Of course you do. When someone calls you honey, they're like, don't screw with me. Question 2, do you have a running bit with a friend or partner that makes you laugh?
I mean, I feel like I have a lot of running bits with all my girlfriends.
I was going to say, you and Amanda must have like 80.
Yeah, I have like 80. I don't even know what they could be. I mean, probably about being like, like a crazy Instagram stalker.
Oh, both of you are, or just you?
I mean, everyone just kind of knows that I've got like, I can find anyone at any time. Okay.
Which is weird because, I thought my dad passed away 7 years ago, but apparently you found him recently living in Oklahoma.
Just send me a few facts and I'll get to work.
Question 3, I'm particularly excited about because I have an intimate familiarity with the answer to this question.
Okay.
Number 3, can you do an impression of either of your parents?
Joshua, it's so great to see you. When are you going to come to New York?
Oh, I miss your parents so much. Listeners, I had, where we go? Swingers, I think?
We went to Swingers.
We went to Swingers with your parents. Delightful. I had the best
delightful.
conversation with them.
And also that's like a very intense, my mom is from Brooklyn. She is also like she's a huge linguistics person and she would be like, I don't talk like that. But when it's a chill hang.
Oh my Lord.
She kind of dives back into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the billboard for this, Adrien's mom is a chill hang.
She is. She's awesome.
Question 4, I'm particularly interested in this for you as someone who I consider uber successful. Have you ever had imposter syndrome? And if so, is there a particular moment that stands out for you?
I live in imposter syndrome.
Oh my, as someone as successful as you live in it. That's insane to me.
I always think about how, especially with the work that I do, I'm living the dream. Okay.
Sure.
And sometimes it's hard to believe that I get to do these things. And even when we all start a job, think about when you're like, if you've been away for 2 weeks and you go in, you're like, do I even know how to do my job?
I do not.
Right. And then you go back in and you're like, oh, I got this. I always think that like, I don't deserve to be here. I don't, I'm lucking out. Okay. And yes, my therapist would say, no, you created your own luck, but it's hard to believe sometimes. It is. I feel like when you have something really good happening in your life, it's hard to have imposter syndrome, especially when, my main title is producer, but I've also got these cakes and I also do all this other stuff. So when someone calls me a producer, I'm like, wait, no, I'm like this like anxious homebody that is making cakes, it's hard to say that I'm one thing or another because no one sees what's behind it. But I think, why me? Why me? But at some point I have to decide, well, it is me.
Yeah.
So I've got to say, there are so many executives in this business where you're like, where the hell did you come from? So we have to, I have to remind myself I'm smart, I'm capable, but it's very hard not to, especially when you do a really cool job like this, not to go like, how did I get here? Like what, star did I land on that someone was like, oh, she can come.
Yeah,
so it's hard. You almost have to be like, I don't deserve this because there were so many other people that want it too. But eventually we all got to have our turn.
And when is it mine?
It's now, honey.
Kidding.
Actually, open up that door on the right.
Hey! Then I just heard bump, bump, ba-na. Okay. Last question. What is your favorite tea? And if not tea, what is your favorite comfort?
I love a chai.
Ooh.
I love a chai with some milk.
Oh, I should have made you a chai. I didn't make you a chai.
I almost requested chai, but then I was like, Josh knows what he's doing.
I got you the carrot cake because you're a baker.
Yes, and that was an incredible experience that I wouldn't have had it if I had requested chai. So, and then, I love a heated blanket.
So a chai and a heated blanket. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested after this podcast in going on a date with Adrien Finkel, the big pieces I can give you that I want you to remember, a chai tea with a little bit of milk. Do you have a milk choice?
I'm a whole milk girl.
She's a whole milk girl. A chai with a little bit of whole milk and a heated blanket.
Yeah.
Adrien, thank you so much for being on Steep Conversation.
Thanks for having me. This was a delight.
That was Adrien Finkel. You can follow Adrien on Instagram at ADEThink. Steep Conversations is produced and edited by Lucas Marshka. Our theme song and additional music are by Oliver Hymack. Our cover art was done by Neil Fraser with photography by Matt Mazisco. Social media by Dia Villegas. Please write a review and rate our podcast on Apple Podcasts and wherever else you can. You can send any questions, comments, newly friend game suggestions, or tea suggestions to steepcombos@gmail.com or tweet us at steepcombos. I'm Josh Lanzette, and you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Josh Lanzette. We'll be back next week, so until then, happy steeping.